What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so once again, LeBron James, who's supposed to be this great ambassador for the game, craps on the old school NBA players and the eras by making a ridiculous claim when it pertains to Giannis Antetokounmpo. All right? He said on the Pat McAfee show that Giannis would score 250 points in a game if he played in the 1970s. Now, not only did he say this, he said it in like a disgusted tone, as if the 70s was such an inferior brand of basketball.
You trying to tell me Giannis wouldn't be able to play an NBA game in the 70s?
Hincha, he wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, neither would you. Neither would you.
Giannis Antetokounmpo would have 250 points in a game in the 70s. 250.
I despise every atomic particle of LeBron's being at this point, man. I really, truly do. What a reprehensible, disgusting person this guy is at times, man. I can't do it, man. This guy's so horrible. Even if you think something like that, that sheer arrogance and unbridled narcissism to just utter it, and people laughing at it. All this enabling BS people do. I swear it's something it's confirmed pretty much now. All these guys have been told to crap on anything before 1984. Why? Because they figure, who cares? They're not huge market consumers at this point, so who gives a shit if we piss them off? And that's why I don't care about any of these guys. They're all a bunch of bleached out, meta ball attending weirdos, in my opinion. But let's get away from that for a second. Number one, maybe this explains, LeBron, why you're always ducking this dude. You know what I'm saying? You haven't played him since December 2022. Maybe that's why you duck Giannis, because you think he's so unstoppable. You don't have to deal with that smoke. So you find these elaborate reasons, much how Joel Embiid was ducking jokers for so many years. He ducked them completely this year. But you find the smoke, you know what I'm saying? Excuse me, you find reasons to duck that smoke. But let's go back to Giannis for a second. I love Giannis. But you're telling me that he would score 250 points in a game. Now, I know that's cap and super exaggeration, because the most Kareem ever scored in the game was 55. So you're telling me that Giannis is more skilled and a greater player than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who had the most unstoppable shot in the history of the NBA, but yet he failed to score 60 points in a game? As a matter of fact, I would argue that despite the high scoring of the 70s, and that had to do with the pace, it's a reason why you didn't see a whole bunch of huge scoring performances in the 70s. Yeah, you did have Pete Maravich drop 68. But off the top of my head, I can't think of too many 60-point performances in the 70s. Now, were the defenses as intricate? I can't say that. But there was more effort on defense. That can be assured if you just watch games from the 70s. And the league was far more physical. By the way, I'm still trying to think of 60-point games in the 70s. I think Rick Barry dropped a 64-point game. I forget which season it was. It might have been 74, 75 or 73, 74. It might have been it. But anyway, you're trying to tell me in the 70s, Giannis is going to score 250 points in a game when we had actual centers playing back then. And yeah, Giannis is athletic. Yes, he is. Yes, he's athletic. But you're trying to tell me that the NBA didn't have athletes in the 70s? Julius Erving wasn't athletic. David Thompson wasn't athletic. Oh, by the way, I forgot. David Thompson scored 73 points in a game. And George Gervin scored 63 points in the game. But George Gervin shot 23 of 49 from the floor in that game, too. So while he scored 63 points to get a scoring title, he had to take a lot of goddamn shots to do it. So, look, the point is, we had great athletes playing in the 1970s. Artis Gilmore, probably the second strongest player in the history of the NBA, was playing in the 70s. A guy that Kareem hated to go up against, Moses Malone, was playing in the late 70s. You had Dave Cowens. You had Bob Lanier. You had Wes Unseld, who was like a goddamn granite rock under the basket. You're trying to tell me, with all these great big men, somehow Giannis is going to put up 250 points in the game? Giannis has problems scoring against Isaiah Stewart. And I love Giannis. But there's no big man in the league. What are you talking about? Dark side. I hate this dude, man. He just says anything out of his mouth and nobody pushes back. Nobody challenges. Like what he says is the gospel. And I'm seeing all these articles just co-signing it. Oh, well, Giannis clearly would have the skill set to put up even bigger numbers in the 70s. Who says who? Says who? Says who? And technically, Giannis is a power forward, right? So he gonna out-rebound Elvin Hayes? I doubt it. You think Giannis could check Bob McAdoo, who got range out to 18, 19, 20 feet, but got quickness to get around Giannis? I look, everybody was talking about the other day, Bronny putting Giannis on skates, even though I think it was weak because he missed a shot. So if Bronny James can cross this dude up, what the fuck are we talking about here? Man, I want someone to invent a time machine so badly. I'm sick of this crap, man. Look, I don't even have to go back to the 70s. Go back to the 1999 season, the 98-99 season. This is how much the NBA has changed. Look at the top 20 scorers that season. When you look at the top 20 scorers, 14 were centers and power forwards. There's a reason for that. Because the game used to be more dominated by big men. Now, I say that because I'm not saying Giannis wouldn't get his. But if you sit up there and try to insinuate that Giannis would be like a big fish in a little pond, or as if he wouldn't have no peers, and as if he's some, let me tell you something. Wilt Chamberlain shits on Giannis in every single way. Athleticism, quickness, speed, strength, you know what I'm saying? Skills, really. Because Giannis is just now developing a mid-range jumper. Wilt had a mid-range jumper when he was coming into the league. Before the league did something about hand checking, because players used to be able to double hand check. And it made it almost impossible for big men to get the separation they needed to get around their defenders and you know, saying spin move, dunks. It was hard to do it. It was almost impossible to shoot it right under the basket. So, out of necessity, and also because you couldn't do the Shaq shit, you couldn't back a dude down. They'll call you for offense. They'll call you for offense. That move where Shaq backs you down and drives his elbow into you. I mean, not elbow, excuse me, his shoulder into you. Damn near power drive you into the goddamn parquet floor and dunk. That's an offensive foul every time in the 60s. So Wilt had to develop an offensive game. That's why in those earlier clips of Wilt, you see him shooting more jump shots. That's why the field goal percentage the first few years were a little bit lower, because he was shooting abundance of jump shots. But he was nailing them. He had range out to 16, 17 feet. But everybody makes you think all Wilt did was dunk because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. But you trying to tell me Wilt couldn't score 250 points, but somehow Giannis would. In the 70s, which is arguably the peak of center position. Arguably the peak of the center position. And big men in general. But Giannis is going to dominate in a way that Kareem didn't dominate. He going to out-hustle Moses Malone. Unbelievable.